Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Good morning, and welcome to the Mom Happy Hour. And if you're joining us on Imperfect Momming Podcasts, welcome to you as well. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about connecting before correcting. So this is a concept that I learned from multiple different sources. I've heard it, but I think the first time I heard it was either through my coach's book, Daddy, Are You Proud of Me? Or I heard it from Dr. Dan Siegel in the No Drama Discipline, which is, he's just one of my favorite parenting authors. That's the very first parenting book that I read. That was, pretty much the very first parenting book that I read. And then I've read several of his others. I absolutely love him. If you're not familiar, absolutely you have to check out the books, especially if you're having some drama discipline, which I felt like I was. So I say that I felt like I was because, you know, hindsight's 2020. I look back at, you know, the time that I've had my son, and he's been an amazing kid. And I really believe in this idea that there's no bad children and there's no bad dogs. It's all about the human who's raising the dog and the human who's raising the child. That because when most of the time, they're reacting to us and to how we behave. And when we change our behavior, they change theirs. So no drama discipline and connecting before you correct. Someone asked me, what is another way to connect before you correct, other than giving a hug? Because I've given the explanation several times of when Xander is activated. I ask him first, before anything else, do you want a hug? And 9 times out of 10, he says yes. And the one time that he says no, it's usually because he's mad at me, but then he'll come back and ask for a hug later. And the cool thing is that he started doing it to me when I don't get mad at him very often, but I was very upset. I got triggered while I was pregnant. I don't even remember what it was now, but there was a trigger and I got really upset, and I know that I overreacted, and he came to me and he said, Mom, do you want a hug? And in that moment, while I was mad, the answer was no. And then I realized what he was doing, and I said, okay, yes, give me a hug. And I was still mad, but in the process of hugging him, I calmed down. So I got to experience it from the other side, which I just realized, and I think that's kind of cool. Because it's so hard to be mad at your kid, whether you started out mad or not, but to be mad at them when you're giving them a hug. So this was a suggestion I know came from the No Drama Discipline book, the idea of the connect before you correct. And I put in the hugging because Xander told me that the way that he feels the most loved by me is when I snuggle him. And so hugs, snuggles, they're kind of similar. And so I know that in that moment when he's upset and he comes to me upset, then I can ask him, do you want a hug? And again, 9 times out of 10, he says yes. And since the one time he says no, he comes back later and asks for a hug. It's really 10 out of 10. So I never really thought of what some other ways of connect before you correct were, because the one way that I had come up with was one that worked. And so when someone asked me, what are some other ways to connect before you correct? I didn't know off the top of my head the answer to that question. So I went to Google to find the answer. And I found a article called Connection Before Correction by Dr. Jane Nelson. And she gave a couple of other suggestions. And while I was writing a blog this morning that is available on my website, alicialyons.com, while I was writing the blog this morning, I realized that I did these things yesterday. I just wasn't registering as connect before you correct in my head, mostly because he wasn't in trouble. Someone had come to me and said, I feel like Xander doesn't really like me, and I don't know why. And I started thinking about this person, and I know why he originally started not liking her, but she's been making an effort to connect with him ever since. And I didn't understand why he still didn't like her. And he actually, broke down and cried because he's like, I don't know why I don't like her. I just don't like her. And so I came up with a solution, which is one of the connect before you correct suggestions from Dr. Jane Nelson. And it is, focus on solutions with your child. And so we kind of broke down what the problem was for him. And I was like, well, there's only 3 adults that I observe him feeling comfortable around and really enjoying a conversation, is what I said, is that it's me and Larry and Larry's mom are the 3 people that I see him enjoying conversations with. And everybody else, it's kind of awkward for him. And I wouldn't have recognized it until we had this conversation. And he said, I feel uncomfortable when I'm talking around adults. And he feels uncomfortable in the beginning, and then he kind of warms up. So, that was so the solution that I came up with, because he didn't really like the solution. But sometimes we don't like things that are good for us. I said that from now on, since you're having trouble connecting with adults and it feels uncomfortable, every time we go to this person's house specifically, but anybody new's house, I want you to 15 minutes, no phone time, have a conversation with that person. Because if he knows that the rule is that he's going to have 15 minutes where he needs to talk to this person, and he's not going to be thinking about his phone during this time, because it's already been established that you're going to have a conversation without the phone with this person for 15 minutes. So that was the solution that we came up with. And I think that it's, has multiple benefits. He's going to get over this discomfort of talking to adults. He's going to create more connection with this person who feels like he doesn't like her. And he's going to learn some conversation skills. So for me, it was a win-win-win. He might not like it so much for a while, but he'll thank me when he's older. I've been telling him that a lot lately, is you'll thank me when you're older. So another connect before you correct suggestion from this article was to listen and really listen to your child, giving them your full attention. And a lot of times we don't really do that. When in this, they've messed up situation where they should be in trouble, if you're like me, you jump to this is what you did wrong. And so what I think positive parenting is trying to do is get away from that, because when a child thinks that they're in trouble, they are instantly in fight or flight mode. And when they're in fight or flight mode, they're not learning. We do not learn in fight or flight mode. Fight, flight, or freeze. We're afraid. Our monkey brain is activated. I've had several guests talk about on the podcast the monkey brain, and when that's activated, they're not learning. So if your child is afraid, they're not going to learn the lesson. And that's why this connection before correction is so important, because when they're connected to you, they're not afraid of you. So, so asking, this is what I did yesterday, what's going on? Why don't you like this person? And he really didn't have an answer. He kind of had an answer, but it was like an old response. And so I was asking more questions, which is another one of the suggestions from this article, is ask questions, and ask questions from curiosity. And my guest from this last episode, Mel Pierce, said, get curious before, or it says get curious, not furious, right? So when we can tap into that curiosity, it's better for our child, because we will make an assumption about why they're doing a certain behavior. We might think they hit their brother, and so they're just being rude or selfish or mean to their brother, when really they hit their brother because their brother hit them first, or they hit their brother because their brother has a toy that they want, or their brother was teasing them. So there's a reason for the behavior. And if we can get curious, not furious, then we can understand what's going on with them. I absolutely love that Mel introduced get curious, not furious, because it summarizes this connection before correction beautifully, and it rhymes, and I can remember it really easily. Validating your child's feelings is another way to connect before correct, because whatever they are feeling, their feelings are valid. There's a little bug flying around. If you're watching the video, there's a bug flying around in front of the camera. Think about the times that you've been in an argument with somebody, and you're arguing your point of view, and they're arguing theirs, but they're not really listening to yours, and you guys just are hit and miss. And we do that to our kids a lot, where we say, well, you shouldn't be mad about that. Okay, but they are mad about it. And so when we can say, I understand that you're angry, that goes a long way to any person that you're talking to or in conflict with, but especially with your children. You can share your thoughts and feelings when it's appropriate, because this is something that I've done with my son since he was 3 years old. He would fight me on going to bed, and I would get to the point where I would yell at him. And when I was a kid, and I was about 4 or 5 years old, I think all the way up to probably 10 or 12. I don't remember. But my stepdad used to yell at me to get me to go to bed. And so when I yelled at Xander to go to bed, that really hurt my heart. And I knew how that felt. And I didn't want to continue that cycle. And so I said to my 3-year-old, Grandpa used to yell at mommy when it was time for mommy to go to bed. And mommy didn't like that very much. And so I don't want to yell at you to go to bed. So when I ask you to go to bed, I need you to go to bed. And for whatever reason, that worked. And we stopped having bedtime battles and he started going to bed. And I think if you base it off this article, it was because I shared my experience and my feelings in a real way to him, in a way that he could understand and in a way that was age appropriate. Spending quality time together. This is a concept that was really introduced to me by Amy McCready, who is a phenomenal parenting expert. And she has a program that I have been recommending to just about everybody that I come into contact with, because I mean, it was kind of funny. I actually bought it because I wanted to be able to help parents of multiple children who have sibling rivalry issues. I don't have sibling rivalry issues because I only have one child. And so I bought her program, and the cost of it was a no-brainer because it was a lifetime access to the content. So you can consume it right away. You can go back and consume it later in 5 years when you have a new problem. So I bought it so I could be a better coach to moms with multiple kids. And then we started having some new conflicts in our household. And I was like, oh, so glad I have this program. So I'm going to link to the program in the comments. Like I said, it's a no-brainer. It's not expensive at all. Super no-brainer. So I'm going to link to that. I really hope that this has been valuable for you today. The connection before correction has literally changed my parenting. It's changed my relationship with Xander. I think that he and I are having, a much better relationship because of connection before correction than we would have had I not learned about that. So look for Amy McCready's link in the comments below and in the show notes of the podcast. If you guys have any questions about it, please reach out to me. I would love to hear your thoughts about, are you doing the connection before correction, and how's that working for you? And if you're not, what are your curiosities about it? How can I support you? So there will be another episode of Imperfect Momming for you on Thursday. There will be another Mom Happy Hour next Monday. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.